Have you ever wondered what kind of effects you can get when you use water-soluble crayons on your gel plate? Well, I was kind of curious, so I thought I'd give it a go and share the results and some fun techniques with you guys too. So the crayons I'm using are the Caran Neocolor II crayon, and I've got my 5x7 gel press plate out. But you can find all of the products that I've used listed below the video as always. Now, before we get started, I should just maybe warn you that the crayons may dye the surface of your gel plate, and if this worries you, then either don't do it or think about using one side for techniques that stain and the other side for techniques that don't. But the stain's not going to interact with any of your prints or anything else that you do on it. So, and to be honest, I think you kind of mark and discolor your plate over time anyway. No matter what you do, it's not going to be pristine new, and you kind of want it to look lived in, don't you? Okay, so for this technique, I first sprayed the plate with water, then scribbled the crayons onto the surface. Now don't worry if you don't cover all the areas with colour, it's quite wet, so when I come to take the print, the water's going to spread out and the colour's going to spread out as well. And have a play with the amounts of water you spray on the surface. Get a feel for it. Experiment to see what kind of effects you can get with different amounts of water. It's quite fun and you can get some quite interesting effects. And you can see here that this is pretty wet. So when I come to put the paper on, I do need to be extra careful because the wet surface is very slippery. And if I'm not careful, the paper can just slip off. And I don't want that to happen. When I pull this print, you'll see that it's made a lovely watercolour wash. So I'm going to set that to one side to dry. And there's still a good amount of liquid colour on the plate, so let's try it with a stencil. When I have lots of colour on my stencil, I do tend to take direct stencil prints as well because they're quite fun too and I enjoy those, so they always add a lovely texture. Right, there is a lovely imprint on my gel plate. I don't know if you can see that, and I think I'm going to try and capture some of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the colour dry. Now I've waited around 10-15 minutes and it is looking mostly dry. There are a few bits that are still a bit too wet, so I'm just going to do a very light print to take those off, and then I'll let the plate dry for a further 5 minutes or so before I add some acrylic paint. And this is what I'm going to lift that colour up with. So I'm going to go for a thin layer of transparent paint, and this is that pearl violet from Amsterdam Acrylics that you saw in my last video, which was that art stash haul share. And let's see what happens when I pull this print. Ooh, pretty colours. I like that, that's really nice. So it's kind of making me think of tea stain marks, but in multiple colours. And it's a lovely effect. Okay, let's see if I can get some more colour off this plate using that technique again. And yes, I've got another wonderful distressed look. There is an interference sheen with this paint that I don't think my camera can quite catch, but when it catches the light, it's really pretty. Now I'm going to try a different technique for adding the crayon colour onto the gel plate surface, and this time I'm doing it by dipping the crayon into water first, then scribbling it out onto the gel surface. And let's see what happens when I take a print from that, and then I'll try it with some stencils as well. So this is another fun way of using your gel plate, and if you're enjoying the video, then please do like it and share it with other creatives who you think would like it too. And of course, feel free to become one of my subscribers if you aren't already, for more art tips, tutorials and inspiration. It'll be great to have you on board. Right, next I'm going to use the wet crayon method again, but this time I'll take some prints with the stencil. Let's see what looks we get and what type of effect we can get. And it's a lovely watercolor effect print, and the stencil has left some really nice details, which again I think my camera can't quite pick up. But when this dries, it's going to look a little bit like a ghosting effect. Now, another fun stencil technique. Now this time the stencil is wet and I've placed it directly onto the plate, and I'm just scribbling some colour over the top. And I've not had to wet the crayon before, and the gel wasn't wet, so the only thing that's wet is the stencil. And I can get a good couple of prints from this, but if you need to, you can always spray it with water. So there are multiple combinations of using these techniques that you could try out, and hope you enjoy it and have a lot of fun doing it and see where it takes you. Also make sure that you try different amounts of water too, to see how you can change up the effect and work out how to get those lovely bright saturated colours to those gorgeous delicate pastel watercolour looks as well. I mean, that's where the fun is on this, isn't it? You get some very different looks. Then don't forget to use the acrylic paint trick as well to get some fascinating distress looks that I'm sure will look amazing on cards and in your art journal or on whatever projects that you're doing. And you'll be surprised how much colour you can pick up with that acrylic paint. So even when you think there's nothing on the plate, give it a go. You never know, you might pick something up. So have fun trying this out and let me know how you get on. And of course, if you're looking for some more art inspiration, then do feel free to dig into these videos. I'll catch up with you again on Wednesday. So in the meantime, have lots of creative fun.